are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friend!
Hello!
Welcome to bOrgCast 8.1, whole new season. Woohoo!
Or something.
Yes. And before we kick off with the beginning of Season 3 of Deep Space Nine, we've got some news!
Oh!
Oh, as per usual, the big news always breaks just after we've recorded an
always
episode.
does.
So it's not really brand new news. But anyway, Brian Fuller is to be the showrunner for the new series of Trek beginning next year. And the reason why I'm getting excited about this new season of Trek now is because he's the man behind Deep Space Nine's The Darkness and the Light, which is a fantastic episode.
Yep.
And Empok Nor.
Oh, that's an awesome one.
Which is one...
We can't talk about it too much for spoiler reasons, but it's awesome.
And it features Garak.
Yes.
He also wrote a bunch of Voyager, some of the more innovative stuff like Mortal Coil and Juggernaut.
Are they any of the ones what is good, like with the phage and the organ transplant?
No, it's some of the later stuff.
Most of which is poo.
Yes, but it's some of the less poo stuff.
Oh.
I mean, part of the problem
it's
is...
weed.
Put it this way, they're not great because it's set on Voyager and the characters are, by definition, rather uninteresting. But the stories at least were trying to push the boundaries a bit as to what Trek had done before.
Okay, no, fair enough. That works.
From my memory. Could be wrong.
Okay.
He's also openly gay, which bodes well for the representation of characters from a more
It does, because
diverse
Trek is
background.
just absent. It's
horrifyingly
horrible.
straight, isn't it?
No, it is. It's really bad. So that's good. I'm hoping that it'll correct that then.
So that's also we're getting more news about that as it's revealed over the course of the year, and who knows, maybe if we like it, we may end up extending the broadcast a bit to cover it. You never know.
You never know. I'd certainly.
We're still not covering Voyager though. I'm sorry.
No, we're not. But or Enterprise.
Yeah.
Unless there's an episode all about the dog, I'll watch that.
I would be more willing to cover Enterprise just because apparently seasons 3 and 4 are supposed to be quite good, but we'd have to get through seasons 1 and 2 to do it. So.
Yeah, okay. But the new season, I'm definitely up for giving it a go.
Mm-hmm. Provided we can pick it up from somewhere, of course.
Yeah, that's true, because we haven't been able to pick up Agent Carter, have we?
Nope. Which is annoying, but there we go. Destination Star Trek news.
Yay! They're going to have Armin Shimmerman as one of the speakers.
Yes. And slightly less exciting, what's his name? He played Tom Paris. But hey. But Armin Shimmerman, cool.
No, Armin Shimmerman, awesome.
And a few folk are saying that they'll be joining us on the Saturday at Destination
awesome.
Star Trek. So if you can be there, let us know in advance and we'll let you know where we are and
yes,
meet up.
Yes, will be awesome.
Last time on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Drew suggested that Yar, this is brilliant, was on her way to Vajazzles the Barber's
Awesome!
to get a cut when Picard called the Red Alert. Hence her hair is different to how it is in Encounter at Farpoint, which is a
head cannon!
Yeah, well, literally, if you think about it.
Well,
so,
yeah. Hair cannon!
Excellent reasoning there, sir.
Awesome,
thank you.
like it.
We also heard on a bit of feedback on the Tumblrs. We don't get that very often. It's good to get it when we do. From CJ. Hi, love your broadcast and wanted to make a couple of comments on all good things. First, yes, 3 Nasal Prize is clunky and horrid. It really comes across as Riker's pimped out ride.
It does!
With 3rd Nasal taking the place of 4 exhaust pipes and some plastic bodywork that does nothing but get caught on the space dock doors.
Yeah, it's like a one of them spoilers on the back, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
I've always considered the Nasals to be there to act as emitters for the warp field rather than as engines in the traditional sense of, say, producing thrust. As these get more efficient in design, they get fewer in number and smaller in proportion to the ship. Thus, the huge nacelles required for the original series' Constitution class, the 4 movie-era star nacelles on the Constellation class that nevertheless was underpowered, and the small variable nacelles on the Intrepid class. If this is an accurate reading, then the 3rd nacelle on the prize makes no sense at all. It also means that a single nacelle ship would be a nonsense, dare I say illogical, in the Star Trek universe. In terms of the future costumes, yes, they're not the best looking outfits in the world.
No.
However, from a costuming perspective, they do 2 important things. 1, they raise the waistline to give the actors a shorter apparent torso and give the impression of drooping shoulders. It makes the actors look distinctly older from their younger selves, by being that little bit
Yes,
wildly.
it's a grandad waistline. That is a very good point.
A little less sharp and giving an overall impression that they're all less firm, fit, and everything's a little more tired. And yes, Grumpy Riker does an awesome impression of Grumpy Cat.
Yes.
We also have some
Last time on Deep Space Nine.
feedback from bOrgCast 725 on the episode Tribunal. This is from Fatbone Smith. Apparently, the trailer man for Tribunal was none other than Peter Optimus Prime Cullen himself.
Oh, wow.
Which, listening back to it, yes, it does sound like him. Apparently, he did some of the others as well.
Do you know who I want to be Trailer Man?
Who do you want to be trailer man?
The guy who does the intro for Street Hawk.
This is Jesse Mock, an ex-motorcycle cop injured in the line of duty. Now a police troubleshooter. He's been recruited for a top-secret government mission to ride Street Hawk, an all-terrain attack motorcycle designed to fight urban crime, capable of incredible speeds up to 300 miles an hour and immense firepower. Only one man, Federal Agent Norman Tuttle, knows Jesse Mock's true identity. The man, machine, Street Hawk.
Yes!
Would that not be awesome?
Well, anyway, let's listen to the trailer for The Search Part 1. I suspect it won't be the same guy that does the ones for Street Hawk, though.
No.
Armed with a revolutionary warship.
Federation ship with a cloaking device?
Engage on a voyage to the farthest edge of the galaxy.
Our mission is to take the Defiant into the Gamma Quadrant and try to find the leaders of the Dominion.
The crew must stand united.
No one is expendable.
To battle the greatest threat to Federation peace.
Prepare to abandon ship!
On the next exciting episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
So it's a good trailer, but it's not Street Hawk Man. The Defiant goes into the Gamma Quadrant. No, it's not done like that. Sorry. In my head, I'm redoing them all.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. You start with a last time recap about the events of the last episode when...
Jemadar, yeah.
With the Jemadar. And then after that recap, you've got a meeting in Ops, and they've run through 7 different simulations, and in all of those simulations, the longest it takes is 2 hours before the station is overrun by Jem'Hadar, were they to invade. And then I'm afraid I go away from the plot because Dax's hair. What is wrong with Dax's hair?
It's all rather bouffant, isn't it? Yes.
And bad.
You'll be pleased to hear it doesn't survive past part 2.
Oh, good. It's really terrible.
It is big hair, isn't it? And Kira's is quite big and all. But,
yeah, it's not as bad as Dax's, though.
Odo's had a makeover too, although not in the hair department. He's got that belt from his Mirror Universe self in Crossover suddenly.
Yeah, yeah.
And another nice little detail is a new comm badge.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't spot that.
Rather than having the circular design in the background, it's now the sort of rectangle, I guess you call it. Debuted in Generations, but now is in Deep Space Nine as well.
Anyway, when I get away from the whole situation with Dax's hair, there's a large subspace surge and there's something going on and they're not sure what it is, very, very close to the shield perimeter, possibly a cloaked ship, but they don't recognise the signature, and it's the Defiant!
Well, it's Cisco being a bit of a dick, to be honest.
I wanted to check the ship's cloaking device, but he says it's a little surprise.
What would they have done if they'd have opened fire on him immediately? I mean, that would have been a bit embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Well, he'd have had 5 evade dice.
Very good.
Yeah, and he calls it his little surprise for the Dominion, and it's just like, yay, the Defiant! Now it's time to get anal about spaceships. Woohoo!
Now, I've waxed lyrical about the Defiant on Space Dock Jury. The episode for that one will be up next weekend. So if you feel like double dosing your Trek, then I shall be defending the honour of the USS Defiant Space Dock Jury released next weekend, which is the weekend of the Sunday the 28th. It'll go up, I think.
Yes. But yeah, it's just like...
Bottom line is they realised that runabouts weren't really going to cut it if they were fighting against the Dominion.
Yep.
So they came up with what was originally just going to be a beefier runabout and then expanded into a design that they'd come up with for something else. And they decided that they'd repurpose it for this. Originally, the sort of square bit at the front was going to be the bridge when it was originally designed.
I'm afraid that's the only bit I don't like. I think of it rather like a dustbuster.
Well, and that's why it doesn't look like it's got a door there, although it should do, because that's where it joins to
that's where it docks, which kind of works. Mm-hmm. It's like a male-female thing with cables. You know what I mean.
But there's no obvious hatch, unfortunately, because that originally was going to be the bridge, so it wouldn't have had a hatch. But there we are.
But it doesn't need it. It just needs to have bobbly bits.
It makes more sense for the bridge to be where it is.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously more secure there rather than sticking out like, say, the bridge of a Star Destroyer. But let's not get lost on that one.
or say the bridge of the USS George Foreman.
And it was named after the Constitution class ship in the original series episode, the Tholian Web.
Oh, right, okay.
Cool teaser, isn't it?
It is a cool teaser.
Cisco's new ride.
And when I said I don't like the Dustbuster nose, for me it's not enough to stop me liking the ship. It's just, for me, that's the one flaw. It's not, ooh, I don't like it, I don't like the nose. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
I love it.
It's the only... Otherwise, I love the circular design, and I love the way it moves, and the pew, pew, pew. Sorry. Wrong podcast, and I don't even do yours. So after the teaser, we find out more about the Defiant in-universe, which is officially, it's an escort ship, but really it's a warship. No families. Hooray! Finally they fucking learn. And no science labs.
Yep.
To conserve space, and it's small quarters, which we will see later. He says there are design flaws. It's overgunned and overpowered for a ship its size.
Which kind of explains it things going a bit tits up later on in the episode, so that's okay.
But the mission is to find the founders, and for that mission, it will do the job of hopefully getting them there safely, but also, it has teeth. Now, one of the ways they're going to get there safely is because of the cloak, and we are introduced to Sub-Commander Thur, is that who you call? Tyrol, who's played by someone whose voice I recognised but face I didn't.
You're recognising her from... I mean, obviously, she's got a bit of Romulan makeup on, which maybe is why you don't recognise her face so well. Although, you're recognising her from Voyager. This is Martha Hackett.
Oh, Seska.
Exactly, was Seska. So she started out as a Bajoran and then became... Well, that's a spoiler, isn't it, really? But
yeah, just say Bajoran. And
one of the few juicy bits about Voyager. Let's not spoil that. It's the first time we've seen Romulans in Deep Space Nine.
But I love this. It's that the mission is so important that the Romulans have sent someone. They've allowed a Federation ship to cloak because there was the Treaty of Algeron.
Yep.
The Federation don't use cloaks. So what's happening is they can, but with a Romulan to operate.
And only in the Gamma Quadrant as well. That's the deal.
But I love that. I mean, how awesome is that? And there's other awesome things about diplomacy and what's been going on behind the scenes that I love about this, about all the sort of bits of the Alpha Quadrant universe coming together in a way that to me makes sense. Like the Romulans would know that the Dominion are as much of a threat to them as they are to anybody else, but they're not going to give up this technology. And the Federation don't want to break the treaty, so the agreement is... I love the idea that Tomalok was engaged in negotiations with Picard. I just, in my head, that's what happened.
Oh, right, okay. The cloaking device was never meant to be permanent for the Defiant. It was really only going to be used in this story. And as a result, when they designed the lighting rig for the bridge, they didn't design it to be able to change easily, because they thought they'd only be doing it as a one-off. But then they decided... spoilers later on, that they were going to keep the cloaking device. So that meant very time-consuming changes of lighting every time the ship cloaks.
Yeah. But I do like it. It's good. Part of the reason she's there is to keep unauthorised people away. But again, it makes sense, It's like, you're not breaking the treaty by using this, but these are our conditions, It makes sense. And then you're introduced to Lieutenant Commander Eddington. Yep. He's like, I am here to make friends. And if that was me, I'd sock him in the fucking mouth. Because he's effectively taking over from Odo. Because, what's her name? Admiral... What's her name? Natalia...
Bichaev.
That's it, Admiral Bichaev, yes. Admiral Bichaev has decided. It's all right, it's okay, if you're wondering why we say this, the actress loves that the character gets called this by fans. But yeah, Admiral...
She owns it, so that's fine.
Definitely. Admiral Bichaev has decided that Odo can't be trusted, so there's got to be a chief of Starfleet security.
And there is precedent for this, because we got a similar character.
We had Twat Guy, didn't we?
Primin, yes, in season 1. And it's exactly the same reason behind the scenes why we're getting Eddington. It's because Cole Meany wanted a few days off to do other things. So the same reason why they got Primmin in to cover for him, they're getting Eddington in to cover for him as well. Eddington's played by Kenneth Marshall, who I suspect you're not recognising from anything. He's best known for deadly frisbee fantasy film Krull. Don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh, I've seen it a couple of times.
Yes.
But it's terrible.
He's got I think it's a mullet in that, if I remember rightly, and a beard. Okay. So he doesn't look exactly the same. He's a lot younger as well.
Okay. Now, the only one I know from that is Todd Carty, who went on to be in EastEnders.
Ah, right. But yes, this is Eddington, and we'll be seeing more of him.
Yeah, we will. He's going to be a...
And we'll say no more.
Regular is probably the wrong word. Recurring character,
yes.
Is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah. But... to be honest, I think in a way you're supposed to hate him because of him taking... in terms of the way it's written and played...
Well, again, it's a nice way of adding a bit more tension to an already fairly tense crew.
Yeah,
let's face it.
yeah.
I mean, the other crew are now getting on a bit better after all this time, so it's good to throw some others into the mix.
Yeah.
It's also worth mentioning, by the way, this scene is happening in a new set.
Oh, right.
This is the first time we've seen the wardroom. The wardroom is apparently an officer's mess in British Navy parlance. Obviously, it's not quite that in Deep Space Nine because, well, O'Brien's there and he ain't an officer. But anyway,
well, he's a chief petty officer, but it doesn't really work, does it?
Yeah, but anyway, this is where the senior crew are going to be hanging out.
No. You know what it is? It's the equivalent of the Ouchie table of Ouchie.
It is basically, yes, without the Ouchie table. Yes,
because they've learned.
Yeah, but yes, it's wardroom sounds better than conference room, doesn't it? So yes, good.
Anyway, Odo is understandably unhappy with Eddington and he is resigning. And Sisko is like, no, look, I fought against this. I didn't want this. I find it interesting that Odo seems to assume that Sisko wanted it and actually Sisko didn't. Then we cut to a scene where Jake is wearing a tablecloth. And it's really hideous. And I think... I don't know whether any of you have seen this on Tumblr, but there's this whole thing about comparing what Jake Sisko wears to bus seats on London buses.
This one's a particularly bad one.
And this is a really bad bus seat. But there's a really... although it doesn't have any bearing on this plot, it's something that it's worth noting in terms of the wider series, because it's a scene between the two Siskos where it's very clear that the station is now home for Ben Sisko in a way that it hadn't been before.
Yeah.
That it's a sense of belonging for Sisko. Then you get the most awesome scene between Sisko and Quark. And Sisko is asking Quark to go. And he's... you think about the way Sisko was originally with the Ferengi at the start of this series and how he seems to come on a journey on the previous episode, the Jem'Hadar. And now he's like, no, you need to go because the Ferengi have been negotiating over Tullabury wine with the Karamar. You are helpful. And it's like, whoa, you think about his attitude to the Ferengi earlier on. It shows the journey he's been on and his appreciation for the Ferengi. And Quark is all like, no, Rom only has his son to think about. I have a business. And then Sisko produces the Nagus' staff, which is just awesome because A, Armin Shimmerman's acting and Quark's response to seeing the staff, but B, the fact that Sisko thought, he said he had negotiations with the Nagus. Sisko, it occurred to him to get involved in negotiations with Grand Nagus Sek and say how important this could be, and he got given the staff, and I just love this. I love the tying of it all together. And
has to be said, Armin Shimmerman didn't.
Did really?
Yeah, and he particularly didn't like having to be made effectively to kiss the staff. He felt it sort of belittled Quark, and it was him being manipulated by humans. He didn't like that idea very much.
No, he's been manipulated by the Nagus. That's why he has to kiss the staff.
It's not the way it comes across, though. To be fair.
But personally, I really like this scene. This is Sisko beginning to see the Ferengi's worth, I thought. Mm-hmm. But I love Shimmerman's acting. Particularly, I love his in response to the staff, but also in the beginning, because he actually says, I didn't have a nice experience with the Jem'Hadar. No, I'm not going. which I like. And then you get Bashir complaining about the medical facilities on the Defiant, because there's no real sick bay and the medical database is crap and whatever. But then you've got Odo, they're about to depart, and Odo asks to come aboard. And he says he's there at the request of the Bajoran government. And I love Sisko's smile to Kira at this. It's kind of a thank you and well done kind of, nice one smile.
We have Dax at Conan Ops, which is a combined station now. It's unlike the Enterprise where it's two different ones. I mean, obviously it's a smaller ship, so Ops is presumably a less arduous role to perform. But it is something that we saw on the Pasteur, of course, in the future. So.
Odo and Quark are expected to share quarters, and Bashir is like, yeah, well, we need someone to keep an eye on Quark anyway, which Quark resents, and Bashir's like, you're supposed to. And Odo's there with his bucket, and you see Quark hitting his head on the low bunks, and then you just get really angry Odo, because he needs to revert to his liquid form, and he doesn't want Quark looking at him while he does it. And he is really quite scary, and Quark does actually look quite scared at this. Now, obviously, the effects for this bit are not good, but for me, it doesn't really matter because it's about him as a species and how it works, rather than it necessarily needing to be fluid. So for me, there's a way you can get away with it. Plus, as you find out later in the episodes, Odo is young for his species. So in a way, the effects can be bad because he hasn't learnt them yet, if that makes sense. And then you get some Jem'Hadar ships are passing by, and the ship's cloaked, and it's like, did they see them or not? And they seem not to, but then they're heading back, and they may have detected a variance to do with cloaking that the Romulans hadn't wanted to previously reveal that's there at warp, so they drop out of warp. But then they still seem to be finding something, and it's to do with the power signature because it's an overpowered ship, so like, right, let's power down.
Tyrell kind of sort of proves her worth at this moment.
Yeah, she does. She's like, yeah.
She's worth. I mean, in a way, she doesn't do an awful lot for this episode in particular, except stand in the back and look at her tiny monitor. So you can see why they didn't keep her on in a way. I mean, they claimed there wasn't much room for character development, which I completely disagree with because it'd been really interesting to have a Romulan on board.
Yeah.
But having said that, just having her standing in front of a monitor at the back of the bridge is going to be a bit shite, isn't it? So
yeah. But no, she
should have stuck her in engineering, but of course they don't build engineering for a few seasons yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was good. She was like, we didn't want to reveal it, but again, she is revealing it now in the interests of the mission, which, I like. So it seems as though the Jem'Hadar have stopped searching and resumed their original course. And then you have Sisko doing a ship's log. Is this Sisko's first ship's log?
It is, yes.
Happen to have done one on the runabout? No, this is his first.
I think it's his first ship's log, yeah.
Okay, I did wonder. And then you have the Karamar on board, and Quark is there as the emissary. And I love this scene. I love the way Quark plays it. And I like Sisko joining in with the bargaining. He's like, he knows how to bargain. I like it. It's really good.
Yeah, we will get to see more of his species in the future. He's called Ornithar, the Karamar. Karamar just sounds too much like caramel. That's the only thing.
I'm glad it's not just you who thinks that.
And it's a very strange makeup design, isn't it, with a weird ridge on the head.
Yeah.
But Ornithar particularly, makes him seem quite bird-like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's almost got a beak for a mouth, hasn't he?
He's a caramel bird.
Yes. And he's played by John Fleck, who was the Romulan Tybok in Mind's Eye, way back in season, what was that, 4 of TNG?
I'm terrible with episode names. What happens in the Mind's Eye?
I think it's the one where Geordie's brainwashed, if I remember right.
Okay.
And it was also Cardassian in The Homecoming.
Okay. This bargaining is going on, and they manage to persuade Ornithar to give them the contact with the Vorta, because they're like, you do what the Vorta want, or they send you the Jem'Hadar. And it's a nice scene where it's like, we only do what the Vorta tell us, because they'll send you the Jem'Hadar. And it's like, they haven't told us to speak to you. And it's like, they haven't told you not to. Yeah, we're not going to do that. And then it's like, yeah, but all your Tuliberry one is going to go away if you don't give us the information. This is Quark stepping in, and Quark is significant, and the Ferengi are significant in enabling this to happen. And Sisko recognises this, and Quark gets off, and he says, I'll make my own way back, and I'll make a profit in the process. And you don't get the sort of sneering that you might have got in season 1. Do you know what I mean? It's just, there seems to be some respect there now between Sisko and Quark, which I like. Having used Ornithar's information, you have Dax and O'Brien, who beam down to a central computer room, and they're suddenly into the main directory, and it's very quick, and O'Brien's like, yeah, is it too fast? And they're like, oh, well, I haven't been locked about anything, but yeah, it is too fast. But they've got some coordinates that they've been to the Defiant before there's a Jem'Hadar hand on the shoulder.
Yeah, they're sort of, the camera sort of bobs around them.
Yeah.
Kind of like point of view of somebody who's stalking them, basically. Yeah. So that raises the tension quite nicely.
It's good. And they've been captured. And then they're like, oh, what do we do? How do we beat them up or whatever? And the Romulan is saying, we need to leave because of the mission. And Michelle's like, no, we don't. And Sisko's like, yeah. Sisko wants Odo's advice, but he says he's indisposed. And it's like, this isn't right. So Kira goes to see him, and Odo refuses to go to the bridge, and he's like, what are you doing here anyway? And Kira's like, I'm your friend. I'm the one who comes to you when she needs help. Now I'm doing the same for you. And Odo says he has to go to the Amarian Nebula.
All right. Once we've contacted the Founders, I'm sure Commander...
No! Not after we've contacted the Founders, now! I have to leave now!
And I love René Auberjonois' performance in this scene because he makes Odo seem very childlike, which of course comes into play later in the episode. Like a toddler, really. Want that now. Must go, But his facial expressions, despite the heavy makeup and appliances he's under, give you the impression of a child. And I really like that. I think it's a very good performance. And then the Defiant is hit, and the cloak has been seen through, presumably through the information that the Jem'Hadar ships picked up on their previous run where they'd originally left. A red shirt helmsman dies.
Yes, we get to see the Defiant's pulse phaser cannons in action
it's
for the first
awesome.
time, which are really powerful.
They kablooey the lead ship. It's brilliant.
Split it in half. It's an different sound effect used for the phaser cannons in
It
this
is.
episode to later appearances, though. It's a bit strange when you watch this one. You go, that's not right.
Well, it's brilliant. I love it.
Locking on to the lead ship. Ready?
Ready!
Fire!
Awesome. It does have teeth.
Yep.
And then the Jem'Hadar board. Why don't they react to Odo?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because they start slugging it out with Odo, and it's
They do.
Hang on a minute, surely they shouldn't be doing that.
Given what we find out at the end of this episode.
This episode, it turns out that Odo's one of their bosses, effectively.
Yeah.
That is strange, isn't it? But again, it's very early days, and they haven't quite sorted this out yet.
No. And Cisco properly prawns a Jem'Hadar.
Oh yeah, he takes on all comers, doesn't he?
He does.
I mean, it takes several of them to take him down.
Awesome. Kira's injured, and when she comes round, she's in a shuttlecraft.
A Type 18 shuttle pod, no less.
Right.
First view of one of those. Apparently the Defiant carried 4 or 2 of these, depending on which source book you look at.
Okay.
They're not supposed to have warp drive initially, though that's later contradicted in the series.
Sorry, no.
And it's one of only 2 appearances made by this particular model, because they went and lost it.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
It'll be replaced by, I think, a much nicer design, actually, which is the Shafi type. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah. And the interior of this shuttle pod is a reuse of the Peregrine attack fighter that we saw a few stories ago.
Okay, yeah. Odo explains that the Defiant is dead in space, surrounded by Jem'Hadar ships. And he's heading for the Amarium Nebula. And she's like, but we shouldn't be going that way. We should be warning Starfleet. And he's like, you didn't object at the time. And she's like, I was unconscious. But within the Amarium Nebula, they find a rogue M-class planet with no star system. So they go down, and there is a lake of shapeshifter goo.
Yes, it's not a great effect, is it?
No.
I mean...
It's recognisable, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's very indistinct and
Yeah.
floaty, isn't it?
And then 3 changelings appear, and then one more who says, welcome home.
Welcome home. Come on in and close the door.
There we are, that's our first tune for the episode. Yeah, it's not a great one, is it? I don't suppose we'll be playing out on that one, but, you know, you said it.
No, she said it.
she being Salome Jens.
Yeah, who was the thing in the What's It?
Yeah, well done.
Come on, tell me who are you? 'Cause I really wanna know.
They were doing the DNA chasey hoobly.
That'll be the chase then.
Sorry, yes.
Season 6 of Next Gen.
Do I fail?
The reason why you recognise it so easy is because she was in very similar makeup in
She
that
was,
one. Yeah.
yes.
She's...
To be fair, though, her voice is distinctive.
Yeah, that's true as well, yeah. Now, she's nearly always referred to as being the female changeling, which I hate. Sounds very Ferengi, doesn't it? So from now onwards, under our son's suggestion, we'll be referring to her as Mrs. Odo.
Yeah. And then it says to be continued.
Yeah, nice cliffhanger. Rene wasn't initially happy with the idea of Odo finding his people so early in the series' run, because he liked the air of mystery.
Yeah.
But he was persuaded by the idea because, of course, he gets immediately alienated from them by the end of part 2, so it's still unresolved in many ways. I found it's a great episode. I mean, obviously, the Defiant is big, and you get a great space battle. And it's reasonably tense all the way through, because they're now in hostile territory and reliant on the cloak to get them by. About the only thing I don't like is the stuff on the Changeling planet, which unfortunately features a lot more heavily in part 2, because the set is poop, and the CGI goop is poop. It's all a bit poop on that planet. So yes, the planet's poop.
Whereas I don't mind that as much. I really like this episode. I think it's got good battles and good tension, and I love that, you know, all the characters are involved but with good reason, and I love having a Romulan there, and I just think it's awesome.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think we both like it, but let's find out what other people think. And we've heard from Sampo. Hello, here is some feedback for The Search Part 1. It's hard to describe, but in this episode it seems that after 2 years of practising, the actors are finally comfortable in their roles, and the chemistry between everyone is good.
Yep.
Which is similar to Next Generation. By season 3, they're all very comfortable in their roles. I can't really be more accurate than that, but it was a feeling I got while watching the episode. The big thing in this episode is, of course, the introduction of the Defiant. It's a really cool ship.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've already geeked all over it enough, so no need for me to do the same. Yes, well, as I say, not as much as I might have done, because I'd already spaffed my wad on Space Dock Jury, so...
Spaffed your wad.
Sorry, bad phrase.
Ew! Normally I'm the gross one.
The fact that the Romulans allow the Federation to use a cloaking device helps build the Dominion as a threat, since it's not often that we see those two governments working together.
Exactly.
I do again wonder who is left to run the station, now that everyone is in the Gamma Quadrant.
That's a bloody good point. I mean,
Eddington now. At least now we've got somebody.
Yeah, Eddington.
So Eddington's in charge,
Okay.
yes. But then I'd be complaining about that every other week. I really like the tension between Starfleet security and Odo. There have been subtle hints about it in previous episodes, but now it's all out in the open. I really like all the spaceship stuff in the episode. When the Jem'Hadar are trying to find the Cloak Defiant with technobabble, it's all nice and tense. When they later attack, the whole battle and boarding operation, very exciting and well done. And of course, the cliffhanger with Odo finding his home is very good, as is the whole episode. I'll return soon with feedback for part 2. Woohoo!
Yay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yep.
Actually, one of the actors I felt most strongly knew her character, if that makes sense, was Terry Farrell on Dax.
Mm-hmm.
Although the hair is absolutely fucking terrible, I did get the impression that the actress was confident in what she was trying to play at this point. Yeah. And we have feedback from Doreen, who says, "Hello, friend. Hello. Before I give my The Search feedback, I have some points about the last broadcast. The odd, shouty people Picard sees in the future confused me too. Until my third watching, when I assumed they were bystanders in Q's court. Yeah, I think that's what they were.
Yes,
but I didn't think it was obvious, at least not initially.
All right.
But then I wonder whether that was because it was supposed to make you think Picard was mad.
Mm-hmm.
So they made it deliberately ambiguous?
I don't think so, but carry on.
Okay, fair enough. With regards to Picard's older northern accent, France has a north too. Every planet has a north.
Yeah, and apparently every country now as well.
But it does depend where in France he's supposed to be from. The Vines and Winemaker Associations do agree indicate southern France. Yeah, that's true. By the way, I saw Crusher milkshakes in farm foods today.
Ooh.
No banana though, just chocolate and strawberry. I'm going by the colours only, as I noticed them a wee bit before giving them a very wide berth.
Yes, I remember the strawberry one's been pretty vile as well. I'm going to get sued by Crusher at this rate. Let's move
possibly.
on.
Okay, so The Search Part 1. When the Dominion are coming and you're quaking and volunteering, who are you going to call? The Defiant! Long live the Defiant! It might have its flaws, but it's got teeth and a cloaking device. I would not like to work with or meet angry Odo, but it's great to watch his true colours showing through. And when the episode faded to black at the end, I thought Odo's next line was going to be, Mummy? And by the way, Starfleet, team players are overrated. I liked the pool that Odo's people came out of. I liked the luminous effects the ripples had and how it looked like molten metal.
Oh, somebody likes that effect, okay.
I guess I shouldn't have expected anything else from a huge community in a large natural area like Odo alone in his bucket. Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Righty, I think that takes us to MP3 feedback.
Okay.
Let's hear from the Pie Man.
Hello, Orgs. Buddy here to talk about the Search Part 1. This is a rather good episode. It's nice to see the kind of continuation on from the Jem'Hadar. And of course, we're introduced to the Defiant. Now, she's a divisive wee ship at times, but I quite like her. I like the un-Starfleetness of her. She's a very unique looking ship in Starfleet annals, not having the standard sort of saucer hull, the sails kind of look. In fact, you could argue she breaks one of Gene Roddenberry's 4 rules. I'd argue that those nacelles are canted down enough for them to have line of sight, but your mileage may vary. This episode is mainly dominated, and indeed my overriding memory is the sound of the Defiant's guns firing. First time I do remember I saw it at a convention, so it was on a fairly large screen and a big crowd of people, and there was a cheer when that happened, when we actually saw what the ship could do. And indeed, considering how badass the Jem'Hadar were made to look in the Jem'Hadar, we do get to see the Defiant absolutely smash one of the ships, so it does make the Defiant look quite hard for all that it does get its arse kicked, but in fairness, it is outnumbered. Some things that I was, I'd completely forgotten that they had that Romulan on board. I can't remember her name. But yeah, I thought they were introducing a new cast member. And of course, we also get the introduction of Eddington. I don't know what happened to Primond, because he does seem like a sub-Primond, or a replacement Primond. Maybe he's opened a gift shop and had an accident with an airlock and is now orbiting the station. Or am I thinking of the wrong podcast and franchise? Primond's gift shop, anyone? No? No. So anyway, yes, like I say, the episode, for all that actually it's not got much action in it at all, for the most part, they load the entire cast, aside from Jake. Pretty much it's Jake and Eddington left on the station to run everything. They load them all onto the Defiant, and they go off to look for the Founders, because after being told to stay to the Delta Quadrant, naturally the best thing you do is dig the Federation's only fully dedicated warship out of mothballs and go flying back in on a mission of peace, because nothing says peace like phaser cannons. And they go in and sure enough get their arses handed to them, and then of course we get that great shot, the last one, of Odo, who's been feeling drawn to a place because he thinks he's getting sacked, and he thinks he's being drawn to a place, and it turns out to be a homeworld of changelings. So I mean, when you describe it like that, the plot is actually quite short, but there are lots of wee elements in it and lots of nice little sort of sequences. I do particularly like the Odo-Kira dynamic. That works out quite well. And indeed, just in general, I do like the idea that Sisko's beginning to find Deep Space Nine home. I think that's actually quite an important part for the character, him and Jake deciding that this is home, not Earth, not some other starship. This is getting to the point to defend their home. So, yeah, overall there's a lot to like. But again, the overriding memory is... And indeed, one of the sad things is, and I hope this isn't considered spoilerific, but the guns never sound like that again. They actually soften them up a bit, make them sound a bit gentler. I'm sure there was a good reason for that, but I was quite sad to lose that sort of heavy, blowing things away sound. So yeah, overall a good start. When I first saw this, like I say, it was at a convention, and actually the sad part was I had to go home because I was still quite young. Before I could watch the second part, so I actually saw a good chunk of season 3 before I finally saw the conclusion, which was rather frustrating at the time. But it's, I think actually I'll talk more about the two-parter in the second part. But as a first part, as a good opening, it's actually a really good season opening, and opening in a two-part is kind of unheard of in Trek. So we're in new ground here, but I'll be back shortly to talk about the Search Part 2. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, Deep Space Nine does this thing now where it sort of opens with a two-parter.
Yeah.
I think, is that a regular feature? I'm trying to remember now. Not for every season, is it?
No, but it's common.
Yeah, I think so. Certainly it'll do it with season 4 as well.
Because you had the circle, didn't you?
Yeah, effectively that was a two-parter in the beginning of season 2 as well. And as I say, they will do it for season 4 as well. So, yeah, it's a good way of opening up a season, isn't it? And it sort of carries on the story set up from the end of the previous seasoning.
Yeah. And now you're going to have to answer this because I wouldn't bloody know, right? Does the Defiant break Roddenberry's rules?
Oh, it certainly doesn't look like a standard Starfleet ship.
But then there's an in-universe explanation for why.
Exactly, yes. And the nacelles are there. They're just, as Purry says, they're sort of cantilevered into the main body of the hull. And I would argue it's just about Starfleet enough. It still looks Starfleet. It's got the same sort of... The bridge, interestingly, of course, it's basically a floating saucer section.
It is, isn't
with
it?
the engineering section sort of mushed into it to save space. So it's just about Starfleet enough to still count. But as he says, mileage may vary on that front.
Yeah, see, I think of it as like the Millennium Falcon with a dustbuster on the front.
And nothing says peace like phaser cannons.
I love that line. That's an awesome phrase. Now, Crimmins Gift Shop, that's no opposite Quarks.
Oh, right.
I've decided.
Okay. It's where that gambler guy's
Yeah, exactly.
place was.
Yeah, well, it was, and now it's Crimmins Gift Shop.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Burry.
Thank you.
Okay, Drew and Tracy, did they like part 1?
Hello, this is our feedback for The Search, part 1.
Oh, that was in parts. I thought,
quite intense.
I thought it was going to, at the beginning, I thought, this is just going to be a setup because it's part 1 for part 2 and it's going to be a bit boring, but then it really started getting exciting, didn't it?
Yeah.
The further it went on.
Absolutely. This is another episode where you're like, you haven't written down any notes? I'm like, no, because I'm watching it. I cannot take my eyes off the screen.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good. It was a real action-packed episode.
It was once it got going, yeah.
Yeah, no, I really thought this was good.
Yeah, it's excellent that the Defiant is in it at last.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know that the Defiant was coming, is there really?
Well, I didn't, to be fair.
We've got it in Attack Queen.
Well, yes, I know that, but I wasn't expecting it to be in this episode. It always really surprises me when Bashir's kind of given... an area of a ship to control, and he can do it flawlessly. It's like, you're a stupid doctor. How do you know how to monitor an attack? It just always flummoxes me when he does that. I just don't think it's in him.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, Cisco was a bit weird in this episode. I really like Cisco.
The bit where he left Dax and O'Brien.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
That's not like him. But also, he's very kind of had a few starey maniac eyeballs going on.
He's probably under a lot of stress, isn't he? And I think also he said about he's spent weeks or a couple of months at Starfleet. I think they're all recognising the
gravitas of the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. And the situation. So I think he doesn't want to leave behind O'Brien and Dax, but he realises he's got a mission to complete, and that might be more important than rescuing them.
Yeah, I mean, there was two things. I mean, when he left them and then he went to a break, and I was like, oh my God, what's he done? And then when it came back and Bashir was kind of talking, you could see that he was sort of sat with his head in his hands. You thought, oh, okay, well, there you go. There's the compassion. But wasn't Odo a dodo in this one? He was a right
he's done very strange,
isn't
isn't he? Yeah.
And a little bit, I kind of thought, was the fact that he went to this planet and he's kind of almost on his homeworld, is that irrelevant for this episode? Because it was just a little bit of a sub-story, and is that then going to turn into something, which I don't know, because we might find out next episode. But I just thought it's a bit of a weird one, that.
Yeah, well, you just have to watch it and find out what's going to happen there.
But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a great opening to the new season. You could tell it was a new season because all the girls are really bouffanty and
at first,
lots of flowing hair.
When we first saw them, we was like, oh, look, they all look really weird. And I was like, oh, that's not right because it's a continuation. But then we found out that it is a few months later.
Yeah,
so they've had their dues done.
Yeah. And they're on their mission. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. It was a great opener to a new season, and I hope it...
Not quite as good as the finale that we watched of season 2,
but that was a finale.
But this is good.
And if this is like...
where it's going to be at.
Yeah, the kind of weakest point, and it's going to build up, then cool, blimey, we're up for a good one. So yes, I enjoyed that. Let's have another one.
Yep, looking forward to part 2.
Absolutely. Take it easy, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Oh, be fascinating what you make of part 2 then, following on from this. But anyway, Odo's a dodo. Yeah.
Oh dear. Now the thing about the Doctor attacking, I've got a question. Is it that he's Starfleet medical, so he's had basic training because he's Starfleet, Or do you think that in the same way as he said, oh yes, I took the extracurricular engineering courses, do you think he took the extracurricular other courses as well?
Well, he definitely took Helm, because he takes over that at one point, doesn't he? So,
Is this just Bashir taking
Yeah.
all the extracurricular everything?
Yes, this is Bashir.
Okay. I did
Say
wonder,
no
yeah.
more.
Because you do have Beverly knowing what to do to an extent, don't you?
Yeah.
And then she takes the commander exam. So presumably there must be some sort of basic training if
Yeah.
you're Starfleet medical. But you reckon Bashir's gone the extra mile like
Yep.
he did with the optional extra engineering courses. He's done optional extra other courses. Yeah, okay, that fits.
Do you find being an attack wing is a bit unfortunate because it's rather underpowered and undergunned and under-armoured?
It's not as good as it should be.
No, definitely not. And let's not mention Cisco's card either.
Oh,
but,
no,
dear.
it's like Jellicoe as well.
Hey
and
ho.
the ha-ha Hathaway, it's like, not right. There's quite a lot of things that aren't right about Attack Wing.
Anyway.
Don't get me started on bloody Picard.
Okay, and we've heard from the Argyle Smurf.
Hello there, Auguses. Damien the Argyle Smurf, and I'm here to talk at you this time about The Search Part 1. The episode in which we finally get the White Star, Defiant, to turn up at DS9. That's probably a quid in the swear jar, isn't it? Oh well. But before we see the Defiant, we get Dax's hair, Dax's new do for this season, which is dreadful. I mean, I'm sorry, I happen to find Terry Farrell extraordinarily attractive, but not in that hairstyle, I don't. But yeah, that's taken away by the White Defiant turning up and decloaking just off the side of the station, which is a good look. A new model, new money for the new season. It's good, good choice. And then the Quidditch roll. And I could have sworn this was the year the title music improved. I'm really disappointed it's not. I was looking forward to the better title music, but you know, one more year. And we get a talk down of what the Defiant can and can't do. Mostly can't. It goes a little bit Star Trek V. All the things that it hasn't got. Also Generations, actually, for that matter. Gets delivered on Tuesday. It's not quite that bad, but you know. Yeah, we learned that the Defiant was first commissioned as a concept when the Borg were a threat. How many Defiants would you need? Seriously, how many Defiants would you need to take down a Borg cube? I mean, not obviously the Voyager Borg, which don't really count, but proper Borg. Well, the Enterprise can't really cope with the Borg. So what, 50, 70, 100 Defiants per Borg cube, maybe? I don't know. And then they learn that their mission is to go into the Dominion territory. I need to pace this one out because I'm struggling with it. The Dominion declared that the Gamma Quadrant is off limits to the Federation, and for the time being at the very least, that they will be left alone as long as the Gamma Quadrant is left alone, and that humanity should stay on it. Well, sorry, the Federation should stay on its own side of the wormhole. And so, to ensure that Dominion is not a threat, they're going to defy that and go into the Gamma Quadrant in order to talk to people to say that they're not a threat, even though no one ever said they were a threat. They just said that they weren't welcome. I'm struggling with the logic in this one, I've got to be honest with you. I mean, the Dominion at no point seemed to think Federation were a threat. They were an annoyance. So, why are they going? I mean, I've played enough Civilization and Age of Empires and things like that to know that when you get the powerful neighbour, Empire, what you do is you stay the fuck out of its way and build up your forces as fast as possible, while absolutely not doing anything to piss them off. Is that not the way forward? Anyway. This is apparently why I'm not an Admiral in the Starfleet. Also, I'm not evil enough, but that's not the point. We get Eddington. I should say, at no point, probably ever, unless I specifically state it, will I ever intend to enter Section 31. So if I ever say anything naughty, bleep it. Don't worry about creating a Section 31 on my account. But anyway, Eddington. Love Eddington, always loved his character. He's got that level of snark, which I always love from any character, really. I mean, it's a Jakar level of sort of snarky bite, and I've always liked it. Well, he will have, anyway. I shouldn't have said any of that, should I? Oh, well. Also, this is completely off topic, and, utterly pointless to most of you, but there's a tiny, tiny little village on one of my bus routes called Eddington, and it always makes me smile when I go through it. And we have, I believe, a Romulan Seska, I think. Also Voyager. I'm talking about Voyager too much. Let's rattle on, because I'm running out of time. I've been rambling. Little point, I like that the Chief of Starfleet Security is a she. Is a female. I like that. It's a little touch. It's a good touch. I mean, why not? And Starfleet is finally noticing security breaches and acting upon them, and acting upon the fact that Odo's as much as we love him, a bit of a shit security chief, really. I mean, you know, he's a good little mafia boss, but not so much on Starfleet security, and that's being noticed now. We get Cisco bribes Quark with, patriotism? I didn't know that worked on a Ferengi. I would have thought that, I don't know. I suppose it does, because it's ultimately for the profit, for the good of the Empire, for profit, so... But it's interesting to see that Quark's got a patriotic streak, and indeed that Ferengi have a patriotic streak, just in a different way than most people would think of. And one quick point as well, the super valuable don't touch that African mask that Cisco takes out of storage. Really super valuable, one of its kind, 2,000-year-old, etc., 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 and he hangs it up on the wall, or he's going to hang it up on the wall of a station that's likely to be attacked by Jem'Hadar. Is that a good idea? I don't think that's a good idea. You're bringing all the valuable stuff away from Earth and putting it on a place that's ultimately very dangerous. And yeah, ultimately, yeah, loved this episode. Can't wait for part 2. Talking too much, rabbiting on. Love the space battles at the end of it. I really should put more into that, really. I've not balanced my time very well. Oh well. Speak to you in an hour or so. Toodle pip.
Cheer bye.
Bye. Yeah, Dax's hair is terrible. There isn't an awful lot of point in looking for logic in Starfleet's response to being told to keep out of the galaxy.
Yes, quite.
It isn't there.
Yeah. And judging by first contact, it's going to take more than one Defiant commanded by Worf to face off against a Borg cube, isn't it? Yes. But it was just a prototype experimental type thingy. Although we will see more of them down the line.
Yeah.
And yes, it's next year, beginning of season 4, we get the slightly better music. Although we've started our better music already.
Yeah, our music is the bestest.
Good. Thank you, sir. I think that's all our feedbacks for part 1. Let us look at part 2.
Okay.
They're savage rulers from the other side of the galaxy.
From now on, Bajor will be the Dominion's responsibility. They'll be running this station.
Now they're about to conquer our side.
I want to know why my chief of operations is lying in the infirmary while the Jem'Hadar who beat him is free to walk the station.
Does the station stand on the threshold of peace? Or Armageddon?
Prepare to launch photon torpedoes.
Next time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
So, as the episode kicks off, I found myself, I think I got all the way to the credits and I realised I hadn't made any notes because I was completely absorbed, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
So similar to what Tracy was saying, actually. Mrs. Odo reveals that Odo left his world as an infant and that all the changelings are related through the Great Link, which is that badly realised pool of CGI. She merges arms with him to help him remember the link, and Rene does the adorable smile thing as
I love it.
As the constable realises he's home. Yeah, which is kind of sweet. Perhaps not the most threatening of endings, but intriguing for the teaser. Then we have Cisco adrift in a shuttle with Bashir.
I love this because he's doing the log thinking Bashir's asleep.
Yeah.
And then Bashir wakes up and like, oh, I didn't realise things were that bad.
But then O'Brien opens the shuttle door and it's revealed they're in the shuttle bay of the Defiant, which is a bit bizarre. But apparently they show that you can't see out the windscreen, so that's kind of explains that. It also brings home the tininess of the shuttle when the back door opens.
I like that idea.
And you can see how cramped it is in there. Odo is in a very fake-looking Arboretum set, and he's asked if he's taken any of the forms around him, which is maybe go to a I want to be a tree place. Yes, there's an old advert. Kira goes back to the shuttle to try and contact Cisco, despite being ordered not to by the shapeshifters, but obviously the Federation's rubbing off on her. And we see the same monolith that we did in the alternate, so it's a definite sign of the changelings, isn't it? Cisco arrives on Deep Space Nine and we meet Admiral Bicheyev for the last time, sadly. Oh, but I love the fact that Natalie Nogaluch has owned that title.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently a treaty with the Founders is on the cards. Commander goes to meet Boraf, who claims to be one of the Founders.
See, Boraf sounds like a Klingon name.
Well, it was. It was where the monastery was, where Worf had that mystical experience and saw Kalis. Anyway, Boraf is a Vorta, not one of the Founders, but we only find that out later. Originally, he was going to be Iris from Jem'Hadar, obviously, but the actress wasn't available, but she does get a name check at least. There's a nice scene with Garak and Bashir where they talk about the Central Command's keenness on a treaty with the Dominion, with Garak worried about it all. And when they bump into Tarul, she's complaining that the Romulans have been excluded. That would be an ecumenical matter, they should have said. Cisco takes up the Romulan exclusion with Bicheyev, Apparently the founders are worried that the Romulans would be disruptive. More disruptive than the Kardashians, Sisko says. Well, quite.
Yeah.
Mrs. Odo explains they took their name from the Solids who feared them.
Now this I like because she says that it was obviously it was meant as an insult, but they took it and made it their own, just like the word gay. And this is the point where I had a quite tearful conversation with our son, where I was explaining that science fiction uses aliens and how they are different to get people to understand that different doesn't mean wrong. And I used the example of the shapeshifters hug and link and things, and our son's response was to give me a hug, which was really sweet, because he has autism, and I explained autistic people do relate differently compared to neurotypicals with family and friends. They socialise differently. It doesn't make it wrong. It's just different. And it was just really nice. Sorry, I got a bit soppy there. But I just like that science fiction can do that. You've got this race that is very, very different, isn't it?
Trek at its best can do that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to mention it.
Cool. Apparently Odo wasn't expected back for another 300 years, which is no little sign that the wormhole has meant that the founders' plans have now had to be pushed forward quite a bit.
Yeah.
Been accelerated.
It also explains as well why there's a bloke changeling, isn't there, who says no, or are you sure, or something like that at one point, and it explains the hesitancy that they're not prepared for this.
Kira comes looking for Odo and ends up talking to the plants, which is amusing.
I like that.
She also finds a suspicious shielded door. Bam, bam, bam. Then we have a fantastic Quark scene.
Think they have the gene? What gene? The gambling gene. They've barely been on the station a week, and already they can hardly drag themselves away from the double table. How fortunate for you. How fortunate for all of us. You see, I have a dream. A dream that one day all people, human, Jem'Hadar, Ferengi, Cardassians, will stand together in peace around my Davo tables. You're a regular visionary, Quark. I am, aren't I?
I love this one.
Yeah.
It is a bit of an unlikely development that the Jem'Hadar enjoy gambling, though. I presume this is just for the purposes of the simulation.
Yeah.
Jem'Hadar nearly spills Miles's pint and it kicks off, as you would expect.
Yeah, it reminds me of Trouble with Tribbles.
Eddington turns up and takes the aggressor's side, which is all rather suspicious.
Yeah.
Dax is fuming as she discovers she's been transferred to the Lexington, and Bashir hails to bring him up to date with what's happened at Quark's. And our next scene is Sisko storming into the negotiations, spitting chips. The Admiral informs them the Federation are pulling out of the system, abandoning the Bajorans to the Dominion without consulting them. The commander gets a promotion as a SOP, but he's clearly not very happy with this situation. Garak turns up to congratulate Sisko on his time in command of the station. Apparently the Bajorans have now allied with the Romulans and war is looming with the Federation. Garak says their leaders have gone insane.
Yeah.
Yes. Tyrrell is shot dead in front of them, leading to a fist fight and Sisko being taken down again and locked up. Garak turns up at security with Dax and Bashir and stuns Eddington with a hypo, which is nice.
I like that. That's what he deserves.
Dax guesses Sisko's plan is to collapse the entrance to the wormhole to prevent the Dominion getting access to the Alpha Quadrant, so they go for the Rio Grande. There's a great scene where you think Garak has turned traitor.
Halt! Put down your weapons. I have them. I have them.
By all means, Commander, do as they say.
Garak?
Now, you heard me, Doctor. Well, I'm glad to see the plan is going as scheduled.
What plan is that?
You mean no one told you? You see, I pretend to be their friend, and then I shoot you.
I love it. It's just awesome.
And then he's shot dead, which, the first time you watch it, if you'd not already guessed something is up, it's like, whoa, you can't shoot Garak. Dax manages to shoot a couple of Jem'Hadar whilst on the run, which is impressive.
Yep.
Sisko ignores Bichev's hails and destroys the wormhole, seemingly. Odo shapeshifts the door open, and only to find the Jem'Hadar, and led to their crewmates who are hooked into some sort of virtual reality system.
Oh, that just makes my brain go to a total Red Dwarf place.
Yes, I know, it's not better than life, thankfully.
It's not Dwayne Dibley.
Oh, no, please, no, I don't want to be Dwayne Dibley.
It's you. Here are your party's clothes and possessions. The medical officer will be down in 20 minutes.
Dwayne Divley. How can I be called Dwayne Divley?
Oh, we've got to watch that episode again at some point. It's been too long. The changeling turns up and admits that they are the founders, controlling all other races because of their fear of them, which is a great motivation for bad guys. They're not doing it because they're evil. They're not doing it because they want power necessarily. They're doing it because they're scared. Odo realises he doesn't belong with such an unjust people. He shares their desire for order, which is complete keeping with his character, has been revealed up till now, but he's not comfortable with their controlling nature.
I love that. Why control anyone? I love that, he genuinely doesn't know why you'd want to.
And it's all about the founders really testing the Federation to see if they can get away with taking over without a military invasion. So see if they can do this through very dodgy politics, basically. And apparently that's modelled on what the Roman Empire did. They tried to do things politically and diplomatically first, but if they didn't get their way, then they'd send in the legions, basically. Ultimately, it's all a bit of a surprise that they let Odo go with his friends. The Changeling states the fact that no Changeling has ever harmed another.
Which will,
which will pay out later on.
But then that's why they let him go, because he says, you can't do it unless you hurt me. She's like, okay.
They could have killed the others and let Odo go, but he claims that what they do to them, they have to do to him. I'm not sure if that stands up or not, but anyway.
No, but you've got to bear in mind that Mrs. Odo is very sympathetic to Odo, and they're very aware of how young he is for their species. So I guess it's about when you've got a toddler, you fight your battles, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You choose which battles you're going to fight, and some of them you do let go because toddler doesn't really understand. So I'm guessing that's their perspective on Odo and his response.
Yep. And the episode ends with Odo saying his goodbyes to the Changelings, with Kira holding his hand, which is very sweet.
And I love the look between the two of them.
Yeah. But as you can tell from the fact that it didn't exactly take me long to discuss the plot there's not quite so much in part 2 as there is in part 1. I mean, obviously the whole thing seemingly kicking off in the Alpha Quadrant is quite tense initially. Yeah. It's certainly not tense when you remember the plot, though, it has to be said, and you know that it's all in their heads.
And also, the whole thing with Odo, it's interesting that he tries to be a rock and a plant and doesn't really get anywhere, in the sense that this is clearly him experiencing alienation from his own species and is connected with the fact he's come back too soon and yada yada. You know, it makes sense. But it's kind of like, did we really need that much detail? You could have skipped all of the scenes with him holding a rock and shit.
Slows down what's going on seemingly in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
And the set's crap. There's no two ways about it. It's rubbish. It doesn't at all look like a real environment.
No, you see, I don't think it looks so bad, because I think of it as a Montessori nursery.
Right. Okay.
Where baby Odo has to practice doing all these things, you see.
Okay. Yeah. The bottom line is it a reset button? It's not quite as bad a reset button as All Good Things. It's ironic that we've followed these two stories together, because what was it you said? You put it quite nicely.
Did I? Oh dear.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm drunk. What did I say?
It wasn't so much that it was a reset thing as it was like a dry run for the Dominion, so that it's all part of a test. Rather, them testing out the Federation to see if they can get away with doing this thing. So it's not quite a reset button in a sense.
It was an experiment.
Yes.
And it was them trying to find out what they could and couldn't do.
However, lots of fans at the time felt it was massively disappointing, because it seemed to be building up to this great... But as I say, as soon as you start getting things like Garrett being shot, and the behaviour of Eddington is very... Even though we don't know him very well, it's clearly not right for Starfleet personnel. So you get... They do lay in quite early on that something is awry here.
Yeah, no, I can't remember the exact words, but basically what I said was, for me, it doesn't feel like a reset, because it's an experiment that the Dominion are looking to learn from.
Yeah.
And look how much they
it has
learned.
consequences, unlike All Good Things, which didn't have consequences beyond the fact that Picard turned up to play cards with his friends, which, let's face it, isn't much of a payoff.
Not really.
This one is going to have big consequences.
It will pay off.
Yes, all right, so that all those events didn't happen, but the fact that they played out as they did is going to have consequences for relations between the Dominion and the Federation for the future.
And it was about what the Dominion could learn.
And we get plenty of action, there's no two ways about it, so... Except with those slower scenes with Odo, but yeah.
Yeah, which, the idea that he doesn't learn really how to be a rock, or that he's struggling, could have been conveyed without. It seemed too long. I don't have a problem with them conveying the idea. It's the way they did it and how long they took.
But the other thing worth mentioning is this is directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, okay.
So therefore we get the trademark. I think this one he always has a scene where he's got the camera quite high up and he's looking down, and you get that with Kira when she's talking to the plant, thinking it's Odo. That's kind of like his trademark shot. Okay. It's not badly directed though. As I say, plenty of pace, which is the important thing.
Yep.
So okay. Possibly a bit of a disappointment, possibly not, depending on how you look upon it. Certainly doesn't stand up well to rewatches because you once you've remembered that it's all not a dream but virtual reality.
All an experiment.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me is when you've watched the whole series through, you can see what the Dominion were doing, what they were learning, and so I think in a way a rewatch adds value to it because you know that in a way it pays off, if that makes sense. But at the time, it's disappointing because you're like, oh, bloody hell, reset button, fuck off. So I think it actually has more rewatch value than it does have value at the time.
So in terms of feedback, we have some feedback from Fatbone Smith.
And Fatbone's right. Fun fact, the ship's motto in the Defiance dedication plaque is a quotation from Red Dwarf.
Well, I say let's get out there and twat it.
Yeah, sadly not. It's a John Masefield thing, which it seems far too romantic and genteel to be the motto for the Defiant, but never mind.
Oh, well. And Fatbones continues, the best thing about the Defiant's first battle with the Jem'Hadar, apart from the machine gun sound effect of the phasers, the Defiant shoots at the middle of the three ships, and as it does so, the two ships on either side leg it to the left and the right. Someone on board's going, fuck this, I thought they said Federation ships were weak. Also, Dax's hair. If you look carefully, it's almost exactly the same shape as Alan Rickman's head in Galaxy Quest. Is it really?
No, not quite, but yes, it's not far off.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Fat Bones.
Thank you.
We also heard from Doreen. Well, at least this reset button was part of the enemy's cunning plan. Oh, there, she summed it up quite nicely there. Yeah. Could Lieutenant Eddington's method for breaking up the fight be any worse? Well, at least he stopped Miles and Julian from getting any more beat up. But his explanation to Julian was rubbish. I sort of wish Bashir had just left it that we've been ordered to give the Jem'Hadar a wide berth, because to go from the Jem'Hadar don't know the station regulations to a threat to Dr. Bashir not to get into another fight doesn't seem to make any logical sense other than Dominion appeasement. Yeah. By the way, Lieutenant Eddington, in order for the Jem'Hadar to learn station regs, you kind of have to tell them when they break the rules. Yes. While I found Quark's I Have a Dream speech quite clever, I don't think I like how it cheapened Martin Luther King's speech. I really like Garak in this one. Mind you, I pretty much always like Garak, but he was especially good in this. Yes, he is great.
He is.
And as Bashir says, he's having fun.
Yeah.
But of course, he's not really Garak. I wonder who wrote this episode, because after using the I Have a Dream speech, we almost have a biblical quote at the end when Odo finds the crew unconscious. Whatever you do to them, you do to me.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Thanks yet again for your continuing podcasting gold, she says.
Gold.
Always believe in your soul. You've got the power to know you're indestructible. Always believe it, 'cause you are gold.
Thanks for that, Dory. Try not to describe our podcast as something that will make Amory think of Spandau Ballet. Spandau Ballet. Yes. That's not going to be the sign-off either, okay?
No, okay.
We're going to go for something classy this time, I think. Thank you, Doreen. We also heard from the Mark, who's fed back on both parts.
So he writes, The Search Parts 1 and 2, or a Curate's Egg Omelette.
Yeah.
Before we start, I do find it amusing that Starfleet Academy seemingly trains every officer to use a double axe hand blow in self-defence.
Yes, the chippy chop stuff. Yeah. Mind you, compared to some of the moves that Shatner pulls off.
Oh. Now to the main point. Have you heard the expression curate's egg? Yeah.
Possibly. On the basis it kind of originated from the story about a curate in the church. Anyway, move on.
Now, this story, in a nutshell, excellent in parts. We have major changes, like new cast, like Eddington, and the reveal of Odo's people. There's absolutely a turning point for DS9's future storylines, as The Search brings about some notable changes to the show, and may be as significant to DS9 as Best of Both Worlds was to TNG. In any case, it's the best Trek cliffhanger, season ender or not, since the aforementioned 2-part Borg outing. But then we end this epic story with 50% of it was a dream. Oh, simulation, that makes it better, does it?
Just about.
Cisco et al. Are left completely passive and their actions of rebellion come to naught. Oh, fuck you, Paramount. However, it seems the simulated death of the Romulan overseer of the cloaking device spilled into reality, as that's the last time we'll see her. The writers wished to convey just how powerful the Dominion was. They were technically so far advanced that they were literally playing with the Federation. Major questions are answered. Where does Odo come from? Why was he alone in space? Who runs this mysterious Dominion and what's their motivation? The episode answers all those questions and still leaves us eager to know what happens next. The temptation that's dangled before Odo of the Link is the ultimate answer to Odo's feelings of loneliness. I like too that Odo's somewhat restricted, imagination-deprived view of what his shapeshifting can mean is challenged. One irony is that for all the female shapeshifters' concerns that Odo's time in the solids has ruined him, his time as a solid really has brought him some understanding for what it means to be a humanoid, on a much deeper level than perhaps the what it's like to be a rock type of thing that she instructs him in. She seems to get the idea of empathy without the essence of it. The somewhat isolating way they treat it, Odo, insisting he train alone for hours at a time before he can pass their test, when they've caused his misery by setting him off as an orphan to spend centuries by himself, further indicates the moral rot at the core of the founder philosophy, of which they remain unaware. That's a good point. Anyway, the dialogue at the end as Odo rushes off and the female shapeshifter explains why they need to subjugate the galaxy does bring up some interesting points. Most of all, the idea that Odo's desire for justice is actually his instinctive desire for order instead, which is an awesome choice for the character. And we get the big thing. We get the USS Cisco's Hand of Fucking Vengeance. The small, stealth in inverted commas Federation warship, appropriately named the USS Defiant. Originally designed to fight the Borg, the prototype Defiant is small and manoeuvrable, and the Romulans have even equipped it with a cloaking device for the mission. So let's get deep into anal about starships. A Defiant. So Picard got turned into a Borg and drank tea and broods about it, but Ben loses his wife to the Borg, so designs and builds a ship to go out to fight them and kick in some heads. It's close in thinking to the FASA Star Trek role-playing game ship class the Lochner Escort that's being ripped off wholesale for the new Starfleet ship. The USS Franklin in Star Trek Beyond, but I digress. The USS George Foreman.
Yes.
It's Defiant.
We're really not going to dwell on that piece of poop.
The Defiant, although it gets its ass kicked first time out, shows the change in Starfleet we've talked about post-Wolf 359. It's a warship, let me repeat, a warship for Starfleet. And what is this ship compared to the standard flushy big Starfleet ships with officers' quarters? It has bunk beds about the fifth of the size for the same punch.
Yes, I love that touch, actually. And the fact that even Cisco, as the captain,
has got a bunk.
Has just got, a bunk. I don't know who he's sharing with, but I'll be in my bunk.
And it has a cloak. And the cloak's person who says they can't use it is bumped off quickly. And seeing the Defiant decloak was really cool.
He's also included some Section 31, so we'll include that at the end. It's our spoiler section right at the end of the podcast. Cool, thank you,
Thank you!
And we've got part 2 of Sampo's feedback. I have one big problem with this episode. It all hinges on the big twist at the end, and of course I remembered it clearly. So it did somewhat hurt the viewing experience. Same as me. But on the other hand, I do remember seeing it for the first time. Then the episode had me hook, line and sinker. I really thought the Dominion and the Federation would form an alliance. I guess Cisco had such a low opinion of admirals in the episodes that I almost expected them to do it.
Good point, yes. Although, the last time we saw Bicheyev in Next Gen, she
seemed like an okay admiral,
didn't
she?
She did, yeah.
But even with knowing the twist, the stuff on the station was mostly quite intense and interesting, and I did enjoy it. Hey, this is going to be in accordance, yes. Not sure why the Dominion felt the need to include Garrick in the simulation, but I'm not complaining. Yeah, I mean, clearly their information on current situation on the station is really up to date, isn't it?
But then we find out why later, don't we?
I guess we do, don't we?
And I think... But the thing is as well, is that for me on a rewatch, I enjoyed it more because of what you find out later. So it's more it's my knowledge of what is to come and how it all works out that means I do enjoy it, and for me it does have rewatch value. At the time I was cross.
I also, of course, knew that the changelings were the founders, so the stuff on the planet was a bit boring. And the ending seemed like a bit of a cheat, the Dominion just letting everyone in the Defiant leave. Yep. But even if the second part was a bit of a letdown after the excellent first part, these 2 episodes are a great starting point for Season 3, and I'm really enjoying this rewatch. So until next time, keep up the good work. Sampo.
Thank you, Sampo.
Thank you, and I completely agree. Yes, interesting, isn't it? Pointing out both the disappointments that we had as well, but also the fact that it's still not a bad 2-parter, actually.
No.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's been interesting, isn't it? Our view seems to be reflected with the written feedback anyway, but let's see what the MP3 feedback has for us. Right, we have the second part of Argyle Smurf's audio feedback.
Hello, Orgs et al. This is Damien the Argyle Smurf. Inevitably, I am back again. Be gone soon, don't worry. And I'm here to talk at you about The Search Part 2. And this is going to be more difficult than I expected, because most of my notes don't make any sense now that I've seen the ending. I'd completely forgotten how this one ends, and I only remembered round about the time they fired the torpedoes into the wormhole. So, all my notes about how the Federation are being creepy and the Romulans aren't being logical and so on is completely worthless. So I've got a bit of vamping to do, really, haven't I? Oh, quick question carried over from Part 1. Urban legend has it that Morn is in every episode. Was he in Part 1? I don't remember any scene where he would have been. I can't remember thinking where he would have been. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit obtuse, and it's an entirely pointless question anyway. But yeah, I mean, I'm delighted. I forgot how this one goes because it doesn't happen very often with Star Trek. And I do remember being, I don't know, I was kind of perturbed by the episode because I felt like the pacing was wrong and the Federation's activities didn't make any sense and the Romulans certainly didn't make any sense. I mean, the idea of Romulans going to war with the Federation because they haven't been included in the treaty does surely mean that the Romulans would be going to war with everybody. Even the Romulans are going to struggle here, I think. Again, doesn't matter because it was all a dream. Or they're all playing a computer game, one or the other. Lots of computer game references today. Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it once I saw where it was going. I mean, I felt during it that the pacing was way off. I was looking at it thinking there's 10 minutes left to play, and now you're just starting to kick off. What? I know this isn't a 3-parter. I know the title of the next episode at the very least, and I know it's not going to be related to this one. But yeah, it all comes true in the end. Although sadly, nobody fixes Dax's hair. Oh, I hope putting the machine on her head would have fixed it, but it didn't. Shame, really. I did have a theory partway through that maybe they were clones, but it didn't make any sense because the ones who were making sense were the ones that came back from the Gamma Quadrant. But yeah, I mean, other things to mention. Like I say, I mean, my notes make no sense. So let's talk about how good the acting was on the part of René Auberge, Odo. He's done very well. As always, of course. I mean, you know, we'd expect nothing else from him. Sisko's done okay as well. He seemed a bit stilted at the beginning of the episode, or beginning of the first part actually, but he's done very well in this one. But I suppose even with the ending the way it was, it struck me as just a tiny bit rushed insofar as, oh, your ship's in orbit, just get on board and fuck off. I mean, if there's a very real possibility of the Dominion becoming an enemy, and now they've had a chance to scan the ship and, you know, give it a good look over and install a tracking device behind the hyperspace drive that will lead the Empire back to the Rebel base or something. It seems a little bit too convenient, really. They surely now know everything about the Federation's secret weapon 90 minutes after it's been unveiled. And I don't think it's a huge spoiler to say that it goes on to continue to become an important ship in the series. So how does that work exactly? I don't know. But yeah, apart from that, like I said, I'm actually a little bit spun out by that ending, which again, I'm very happy about because, you know, that too many times I sit there going, oh, this is the one where this and that. Kind of like you guys. Whereas this time it did escape me, which is nice. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both of them. It's a good 2-parter. I have a horrible feeling we're going to be back to fluff, and this is when you don't want fluff anymore. Fluff was fun last year, but this year it looks like already this year's going to be important, and fluff might just get annoying. But we'll see. Or is it Generations next? I'm looking forward to doing Generations, because I think I may be one of its only defenders, which is going to be interesting in itself. Bearing in mind that I realise I have no leg to stand on when it comes to Generations because of my lack of interest in TNG and TOS. But anyway, I ramble again, and this time I'm not even rambling about anything, so I really should shut up and go away. So, have a lovely evening, enjoy all that you do and everything that you do, and that's every single one of you listening. That was about as wide-reaching as I can make it, really, isn't it? Sod it. Everyone who's not listening as well, everyone who exists, have a fantastic week. Love and kisses to you all. Cheerio.
Cheerio!
Cheerio!
Nothing is not comprehensive in terms of your goodbyes. Yes, in terms of what comes next as a piece of fluff, arguably it's a Ferengi episode, so you may feel it's fluffy. It's also a Klingon episode. But anyway, more of that in a month's time, because you're quite right, we're covering Generations next. So.
Oh, bollocks.
Yay! And you won't be the only one defending it. So there we are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless I've changed my mind about it again, because originally I didn't like it, then I've come round to liking it mostly.
Why?
Mostly. We'll explain about that next time. Okay, let's not.
It's Christmas. Oh, I love you, Papa.
You won't find me defending that scene, I'll tell you. Anyway, he's quite right that I felt like it was an easy escape from the planet, just like they just let them go. That doesn't seem right somehow, but never mind. I'm not sure that Morn is in every episode. I don't know I've not heard that urban myth, but I don't think it's true anyway, so, you know.
He might be beyond a certain point.
Possibly a bit later on he is, yes. Cool. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Drew and Tracy next. Did part 2 surprise them? Let's see.
Hello, this is Feedback for the Search part 2.
So those changelings are a bit creepy, eh?
Yes, well, there's lots of stuff coming out on this, isn't there? So Odo has found his people, the changelings.
Well, he found his homeworld.
Like the last bit of part 1.
Yeah.
And they are the founders
Yeah,
who are controlling the Dominion and the Jem'Hadar and all that.
That was just a bit of a weird twist right at the end. But when they first came on, you were like, oh, these are a bit strange. And, you know, all this talking about the link and stuff like that. I said to you at the time, I said, oh, these are very kind of Borg-like because it's all about like one collective mind
you said that.
and
The
things
link
like
is
that.
that,
Yeah, so
yeah.
and then it turns out to be
they're
a
the big
bunch
baddies.
of weirdos. So yeah, I was right with that one. But I did have a question about the changelings, didn't I? I said to you, why are they gender specific? So why do you have females and males? You should just be androgynous, surely. And why does she have boobs? Because in theory, boobs are to feed infants, but they don't have them. You know, they
As
don't
far
have
as
that
we
need,
know,
and it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, when you said that in the episode, and I said, "Oh, we'll have a chat about that like later," and then I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, "Oh, perhaps it's because like they want to make it easier for like the solids to
stop saying solids."
To the solids to not the poos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't have these changelings calling humans solids. To me, solid is a poo, right? Let's just stop calling us the solids.
Anyhow.
The shits. No, it's not right. Let's just stop that.
Perhaps it's because they want to make the humans and whatever like easier to deal with if they see like two genders. But no, because they don't like them.
No.
So I don't know is the answer to that. Perhaps it will come out at some other point. When we was watching this stuff going on Deep Space Nine when they went back and that, I was just like getting more and more like this has got to be like. I was like, there must be a holodeck or something.
Yeah,
or,
you did guess it,
or
didn't you?
I was thinking the changelings must have taken over like that Admiral Nechayev and all that. Like.
Oh, she's a right little.
Well, yeah, but
bitch,
it turned out it was all in their heads, wasn't
Yeah,
it? But
true.
it was getting more and more ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was a bit
I think,
daft.
and when like they said, "Oh, the Federation, we're going to give Bajor to the Dominion," and that, and I was just like, "This is not the truth happening here, isn't it?"
So this was all in their head. Right?
Yeah, it was an experiment to see what they would do.
Yeah, so what
really.
happened to Garak then? Because it was good to see Garak in combat mode. He was doing the fight and he was stepping up to the bridge. And obviously now you know that it was all like a simulation. You realise
so
why
nothing
it was
happened
coming.
to him. So
But he got shot, and I said to you, but Garak don't die.
Yeah, I know. I was a bit like, oh, what's going on here?
But then why was he not in like the holodeck?
Because he was just like a character in their heads.
Then I guess they'd all be there then, wouldn't they?
One thing you would say is how would they know this all? Well, I guess it's more like the changelings have been spying. You remember that when the Jem'Hadar said about, you know, he knew all the stuff that was going on in the Africa quadrant. I guess they've been doing lots and lots of spying and know exactly what's going on.
They're bringing a lot of characters into these episodes now that just make me want to punch the screen. I mean, the Jem'Hadar, you just want to kick them in the face, don't you? They're just nasty. And who's that new...
security guy.
No, yeah, he's a little
but now we
bastard,
know
isn't
that he wasn't. Was
yeah,
it?
yeah,
It was,
but no, the Dominion bloke.
I don't know what his name
No,
is.
I can't think what it's. But he's got a right
they're all
twisty face,
smug
isn't he?
looking
Yeah, you
bastards,
just want to
aren't they?
poke him in the eye. The only last thing I've got is it was quite a sad ending for Odo, and I just couldn't understand.
Yes, it was.
how Kira used Odo's comms badge, didn't she? And she
You know
said
what,
to beam
this
up. And I thought that
comm badge must be part
badges
of
were
him.
specific for the wearer, though. So
I don't know about that.
But then it can't be, because otherwise they wouldn't have to say their name.
I'm sure I've read somewhere that they are kind of fingerprint kind of thing, but I'm sure that anyone can use anyone's comm badge. But more to the point, how does his comm badge work? Because isn't that part of him? Because when he
when he
into
morphs,
something, where
does
does
it
go?
fall off on the floor?
I don't know. I think that is a big thing that
That's
is
a
talked
big
about on internet
doo-doo.
forums.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we've got to say on that, I think.
Yeah, well, just
Liked
very
it.
quickly as
Really
well.
enjoyed
Yeah,
it, yeah.
I thought to the first half I was a bit like, oh, it's a bit of a boring episode, but then it just really ramped up, and it's good.
I
Yeah,
liked it.
oh, it's good as well.
I think the scene between Cisco and Garak, when they were kind of
that was
double meanings
excellent.
and things like that, and they were kind of forming an understanding that
But
they both
it
wanted to
wasn't
get and kick
true,
their
we
asses.
know now, but
No, I know, but it was quite a good, funny
Oh, it was
scene.
good, yeah.
Cisco's got some very kind of sly, raised eyebrow kind of.
Yeah.
Are you talking about what I think you're talking about? Good part 2.
Excellent.
Yes, let's leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. I love the fact that everyone's been completely thrown by this part too. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. What's going on? They're behaving very strangely.
Yeah.
It's great. I wish I could go back to when I watched this and I didn't know how it.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way.
Please.
I could-
No.
I've been told.
You has. Have you got anything to add about their feedback?
Yes, I think it's a very bloody good point. Why the smeg of the changelings gender specific?
That is bizarre.
Why
isn't
has
it?
she got boobs?
That makes
Doesn't
no
work.
sense at all. I mean, why do we? Mrs. Odo is silly, isn't it? And you know why? Yeah, crazy. It is crazy.
They should be androgynous.
They should be androgynous. Yes. Yep. No need.
I love Tracy's anger. It made me laugh.
Yes, it always does. Yes. We won't be seeing Borath again, so you won't be worried about him. We will be seeing other Vorta, but not for a long while, actually. The Vorta kind of disappear into the background for a bit.
Okay.
But we'll be getting a really good Vorta at some point.
Oh, yes. And the whole Odo's comm badge thing, let's just not go there.
Yeah, they do not
Doesn't
dwell.
make any sense, just don't.
No. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, let's finish with Purry.
Hello again, Purry here to talk about The Search Part 2. And actually I quite like this second part, for all that having watched it before and having seen it, I do know that the stuff with Cisco and co is all a dream. Not quite a dream, but a Jem'Hadar-induced simulation, see how far they would go to prevent them getting a foothold, which is an interesting idea. It's actually quite neat to see them trying this sort of thing out. You know, they didn't just kill the main cast, they actually brought them in and did this kind of in-head simulation just to see what they would do when poked certain ways. And indeed, it's actually quite an interesting what if. You know, the Vorta, I can't remember his name, he turns up and they basically have basically Starfleet will do almost anything to get a truce with them, including setting Bajor to the wolves, risking war with the Romulans, and generally offending everyone. And it's quite exciting. It's got quite a sort of paranoid and things spiralling out of control feel to it, which I liked. I thought that was quite a neat sort of sequence of events, for all that, like I say, I can understand that people would feel conned by the payoff at the end, that it was just a simulation and that in fact they were all on the same planet as Odo and the Defiant was sitting up in orbit, presumably because the Jem'Hadar took it there. Maybe there's not room in their ships, maybe they were going to examine it, who knows, but what we do know is the Jem'Hadar took it there. And so, yeah, but the main, obviously, I enjoyed that, and I quite liked seeing basically the crew go rogue. You could have had a very interesting series there with kind of Cisco on the run for that, but I do, you know, knowing where Deep Space Nine goes, I'm not entirely sad that we lost that. That said, and also they killed Garak, so, you know, frankly, any universe where Garak stays alive is fine. But I could see Anne-Marie, for instance, getting annoyed that this is almost a parallel universe. Now, there are some things which I'm not going to mention, but I do have some queries about the way certain Vorta behave in certain scenes. I think I'll leave it at that, because I think you'd probably be Section 31ing anything else. This is possibly not, but if you discuss it, you discuss it. The main plot, obviously, is Odo getting to know his people and linking, doing lots and lots of linking. Hot, sweaty, linking. I do quite like the way that the reveal that the changelings are the Founders is brought through. For all, again, I knew the twist. It is interesting to see that they do initially talk about we're civilized and peaceful and we were explorers, but we were threatened. That they do call sort of us monoforms or solids is a nice touch. That they have their own sort of terms for us, and that Odo does look like he's getting really into his people, and he is planning to stay and eventually join the Great Link and sort of a big melding of minds, which in itself is a great sci-fi concept. The idea that in fact the reason it is mentioned that assuming any solid shape is irritating to the changelings in general, and I do wonder if that's why Odo has to regenerate so often, is because holding a shape is an effort, and his natural form is basically to be a blobby mass for most of it. That shapeshifting is almost an ability of this blobby mass-like species. What you do have is Odo eventually finding out, and of course this idea, it's actually quite a nice touch to his character. I wish they'd looked at it a bit more. We did have maybe a bit too much of the episode, kind of with him and Kira and him wandering about being trees, and his smile gives me nightmares. I see that thing when I shut my eyes and it's horrible. But and maybe there is a wee bit of that, and it does kind of sag a little, but I think that's why the B plot kind of keeps things moving. But there is this idea that, as he said, he's always been a fan of justice, and she says, no, you're a fan of order. And indeed, we've accused him of going a bit Theresa May before, and he is very much big on order. So you could see that's almost his genetic predisposition, but perhaps contact with us has turned it into his sort of unending quest for justice rather than imposing order at all costs like his people are. So I thought that was actually a really interesting thing, and I would have liked to have seen more of that. But overall, again, it's actually a fairly decent second part. I do think this is actually a fairly solid two-parter watched as a whole, which is unusual. Like I say, the second parts are usually a letdown, and I didn't find it. It's different, but it's not a letdown, for me anyway. So all it remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. It's a very good podcast, and I always look forward to it. Until the next time, bye for now.
Bye, sir. Yeah, wow, everybody's been positive about it. I thought it might get a bit of a kick in, but no, that's great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
And I don't feel down about it like a parallel universe, because it's an experiment the Dominion learned from.
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember how I felt about this first time I watched it. I may have been angry the first time round, but having seen all the way through, you know the Dominion are learning about the solids, the Alpha Quadrant solids to be more specific. So I don't feel cross because there's a point.
Yep.
And that for me is one of the things about parallel universes, is that usually there's no point. If there is, it makes it different. But we may have a song, you said.
Yes, because I like Odo's smile.
Yeah.
Tune. Now that one I can get on board with that one.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I love Odo's smile.
I think it's sweet, and it's like it's childlike, but also reflects the fact he's not very good at faces.
Yes.
In fact, it actually reminds me of our son's smile in some ways.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Right, we have that bit of Section 31, so if you don't have any spoilers for later episodes of Deep Space Nine, then please fast forward the amount of time this person tells you to do now thing. I really got to work on that link better, haven't I? But anyway, to avoid Section 31 spoilers, please fast forward 3 minutes.
Our official designation is Section 31. Never heard of it. We keep a low profile. Works out better that way for all concerned.
And what does Section 31 do?
So, the marks are Section 31. In fact, what bothers me the second most about this episode, and many of the Deep Space Nine episodes, is not the simulation ending, but the fact the consequences of the episode are never addressed in the future. Sisko and the others have no qualms about destroying the wormhole here for dramatic effect, and since they thought it was reality, there is no reason why they would change their minds on destroying it later. Yet even in the face of all-out war with the Dominion, they never again bring up the possibility of destroying the wormhole. In fact, they even thwart a Romulan plot to destroy it in Visionary. By Inferno's light, Sisko does in fact plan to seal the wormhole when it looks as if the Dominion is coming. It makes no sense. They are back and forth on this like a politician on a hot-button issue. Well, I think it's a fair point.
I think the reason for the inconsistency, as I remember, you have to bear in mind this is my memories, I haven't watched far enough in to be certain, is that it's connected with Sisko's feelings and understanding of his role of emissary.
Yes, and the connection with the wormhole aliens. That's right. Yes.
So Sisko is inconsistent because he has different experiences and he fluctuates as an individual. And my remembrance is that is reflected in inconsistent approaches to the wormhole from the DS9.
I mean, imagine the fallout for the Bajorans, if nothing else, if they destroyed the wormhole, the Celestial Temple.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as he grows more into the role of the emissary, he's going to be more resistant to the idea of that being an easy solution to the problem.
But there are times when he's resisting the role and times when he isn't, and that is reflecting his approach.
Very
and
good.
He's the commander of the station, and therefore he wants is... But that's from memory. We may find as we go through that actually our experience is different.
Well, that sounds like canon for now, anyway.
Yeah, but worth looking at in future, I think, and being aware of and taking note of.
Cool.
Thank you.
So, where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with what we're doing next for what I'm naming bOrgCast 8.M.
8.M? What's the M for?
Movie. Hey!
Can we not have 8.S for shite?
No. Or solid. No.
8.F for fuck. 8.C for cunt.
We might be having a bit of a disagreement over this one, I can tell. But anyway, we'll be recording on Thursday the 3rd of March our coverage of Generations, folks.
Supply beer.
So, if you've got any memories or thoughts on that one, then do send it to us either as using the forums or Twitter or MP3s.
One word swear words on Twitter are fine. I will make a point of favouriting them and I will read them out.
And the way to contact us is all as per usual at the end of the podcast. Cool! Little plug. I want to do a little plug. We've mentioned it once or twice. Space Dock Jury is a thing on Geek Planet Online and
Let's
iTunes.
Get Anal About Spaceships, the podcast.
There we go. And as I say, in the one that will be coming out on the 28th of February, I shall be defending the honour of the Defiant against such inconceivably stupid ships as the White Star.
Now, here's the question, because I like all the ships, actually, in this particular episode.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you who wins.
No. That's not my question.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who hasn't seen all the way through DS9, are there spoilers for DS9 in the episode of Space Dock Jury?
There probably are, actually. So my bit on Space Dock Jury is one giant Section 31, so don't go there if you don't want spoilers. That's true.
Yeah.
Good thinking,
Point
Batman.
of mentioning, isn't it? Yes. Other plug.
It is a spoilerific podcast.
Other plug is Geek Planet Online has now got a mobile-friendly site.
Yes, it's recently had the revamp, but Matt has also now revamped it for the mobile as well, so that it works a lot better. It's got lots of pop-down menus and things, so you can access stuff really easily. So excellent stuff. Thank you, Mr. Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll catch you next month. Cheery bye.
Bye. The bOrgCast is brought to you by the lovely people at geekplanetonline.com.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended. The music at the beginning of this podcast was produced by the 86th Floor on YouTube and is used with their kind permission.
To contact us, you can use the forums at geekplanetonline.com.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send email messages or MP3s to bOrgCast@geekplanetonline.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. Hashtag bOrgCast.
Shut it down!